everybody, welcome back to the show. Our next guest is working on a documentary to find out whether Canadians are funny. The answer, if you're looking at us too,
not so much. But he's also trying to search for his own funny. Where did it come from? And Canada is part of the search, even though he's a New Zealander. Jeremy Elwood joining us, but really a Canadian, but a New Zealander.
It's a long story, but yeah, I was born in Canada. I lived in Canada for the first 7 years of my life. A lot of my family are still here and various scattered, across this enormous country that you have.
Now, as a former Vancouverite, of course, we just had the riots last week. We were just talking about the Kiss. What are your thoughts on these two and their media tour?
Well, two things. Firstly, it's broken in the news now that it actually turns out this guy is an Australian stand-up comic. So I'm doing the second most effective self-promotion while I'm in Vancouver of an Antipodean comic. I think that guy's got me well beaten. The other thing is, I mean, when I'm at home, I tend to write. I write topical comedy, sort of. So yeah. I knew I was.
I heard that as riot for a
doing
second.
Some shows.
I tend to riot,
Yeah, I tend to riot. So I was about to come here, and I went. Well, I wonder if there's anything happening in Vancouver that I should write about.
Hey, there you go.
Turn on the internet. You've burnt it down.
Yes.
Okay, good.
What a way for Vancouver. The night we're known as Canadians, all over the world, we're known as the nicest people. Vancouver is the most livable city, the most beautiful city, and then we riot over
But it was
hockey.
a very Canadian riot, because immediately the next day, everyone came in, helped clean up, and apologised.
That's the point. We say, I'm sorry.
Definitely, I'm sorry.
An English football riot leads to 100 years of civil war where people don't speak to each other. A Canadian riot is, yeah, we're rioting.
We're sorry.
Probably people apologizing as they were looting. As they're taking things out. I'm sorry, I'm doing this. I can't help it.
So tell us about this documentary that you're working on.
Well, we're working. The idea is to follow some New Zealand comedians, because I mean, New Zealand is a nation of immigrants, really.
Right.
Everyone has come from somewhere else, whether it be 20 years ago like me or 100 years ago. So we're trying to find out where people's sense of humour comes from. And for me particularly, it's my brand of comedy is sort of quite topical, quite political, and it's just finding out whether that's a Canadian thing or whether that's something I've developed in spite of my Canadian heritage.
Well, and there's so many fascinating, I mean, when I think of you and I think of New Zealand and Canada, there's so many correlations between the two countries as well. There's so many similarities.
We're both the little brother living next to that kind of really annoying guy.
Yours is Australian, ours is American.
That's right. You've got that big neighbour who just parties too hard, and you just want to ask them to keep it down a little bit because they're lowering the price of real estate.
We have to log in the morning.
Well, when I think of funny Canadians, I think of SCTV, of course, the classics. You've got Seth Rogen, a contemporary. Jim Carrey comes to mind. I mean, funny people.
Yeah, I mean, Canadians, I think are hugely funny, and a lot of people might, outside of Canada, Canadians, you're like New Zealanders. Anyone who's even got a one gene that's Canadian, you claim very proudly. We do.
Oh, and you will wear that flag all over the world.
We do the same thing with everyone except Russell Crowe, Australia. They can have him. That's fine.
Away you go.
He's yours.
Yeah.
Are there similarities in the humor? Because when you think, once again, of the histories between our two countries, between Canada and New Zealand, former British colonies and blah, 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 and resource and all this other stuff, are there similarities that you find in the humor between?
I think there are. I mean, I've been a guy I talked to yesterday said a really interesting thing, which is both Canada and New Zealand have taken a bit from American style of comedy and a bit from the British sort of tradition of writing. So you've got the Americans. A lot of American comedy, with all due respect, is style over substance. There's a lot of big, very
physical
big delivery, very loud. And a lot of British stand-up comedians that kind of overwrite almost. It's very intricate kind of wordplay. Yeah. And I think Canadian humour, and particularly New Zealand comedy, I think as well, is a mixing of the two, because we do have those two backgrounds. We have influence from both places.
Because you do topical comedy. Do you? I mean, some of your stuff people might get offended by. I mean, when you're dealing stuff that is still in the headlines, do you find it difficult to find that line? Because we've seen a lot of comedians recently, Tracy Morgan, getting in trouble for doing material that is really offensive in the wrong way. It's not a funny thing. I mean, how do you find the line?
Well, personally, with certain incidences such as the Tracy Morgan thing recently, I mean, I don't think he was doing material. That was just anger. That was just. And I think that's very much the trick. Is if you can put if there's a good joke in there, people will go a lot further with you.
Yeah.
Having said that, a lot of it's timing. I mean, we've had in New Zealand recently a series of very serious earthquakes in our South Island, and the people from that town, from Christchurch, are willing to laugh about it, but the rest of the country isn't.
Yeah, if you're from outside of Christchurch, you cannot say.
And I'll tell you, I mean, the gig I've done so far, you guys are already willing to laugh about the riots, but you're not ready to laugh about the scoreline.
Right.
I found that out. It's like, talk about the riots, just don't mention the score.
Whatever, do not say that Boston won the cup.
That's right.
But there's this amazing thing with humor, and it's always served. I mean, as you look through history, and especially as comedy came into the mainstream in the 50s, 60s, George Carlin, guys like this, that ability to break down social taboos, social barriers, address really big issues, and have people look at it from a different perspective is integral to
I have a theory that if you can make people laugh about something, they listen harder. You can, I mean, take any kind of political belief someone has. If you just get on your soapbox and lecture at people, they get bored and they walk away.
Wienergate is a great example.
Wienergate is a fantastic example. I mean, where everyone's just going, you know, most people couldn't name another congressman in the US right now.
No, absolutely.
Fiona can't. Boner?
Boner.
Fiona
and Boehner are my two favorite American
the rest of it.
politicians. No, I'm not a fan of Holder.
But there's, this other, we saw one of the things that you were talking about, and once again, to go back to Canada and New Zealand, is we don't have these big armed forces. We don't necessarily get involved in world conflicts as well. So I think it gives people an interesting perspective, because sometimes you're one step removed from what's
you can, I mean, certainly when you're talking about what was, Afghanistan or Iraq, or and both of our countries have forces in Afghanistan, but we're still slightly removed in terms of
we're the humanitarian.
Yeah, we don't have that sort of we've got to be right behind everybody sort of attitude. We can still have a bit of a laugh. I mean, I do jokes at home about the New Zealand Army tends to only make the news when something stupid happens. Yeah. We had an otter escape from our zoo, and it was swimming around the harbour, and we sent our navy after it. We did. We sent.
See, in Canada, we would send our navy as well. There you go. Are your family funny? I mean, when you look back, and especially when you come to visit your family in Canada, like I know in my family, there's always that one uncle that's like, he's the guy, he's a really funny guy. Do you have that?
Well, my grandmother is a real character. I mean, she's a very funny woman, and I mean, I remember growing up, it's the kind of household where you'd sit down for Christmas and you knew one of the seats had a whoopee cushion under it. You knew one of them. And
that was grandma?
And that was my grandmother.
Oh, that's the best.
And then sometimes you'd have some of the other family just going, I'm not sitting down.
I'm not sitting down, just like standing up.
I'm going to eat standing up. That's fine. Pass the turkey.
Well, and the children always want to be the opposite of their parents.
They want to sit down, try every chair. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Good luck on your search. And guess what? You can see Jeremy at the Comedy Mix at the Century Plaza Hotel. That's happening tomorrow, June 21st at 8:30. Go check it out and find your funny.
Very nice, man. Appreciate it. Thank you for not bringing up the actual scoreline.
No. We prefer to forget about it.
I don't want to have to break this glass. No. We're going to take a break.